Before we get into this video, I just want to let you know that we have just finished watching the Ruby Frankie Devil in My Family documentary on my Patreon. It was absolutely insane. My Patreon code is still on. It is 30% off using code YouTubeMucker. If you subscribe, you will immediately get access to me reacting to the Ruby Frankie documentary. It's like 3 long parts of over 1 hour each. Me reacting to Trisha Paytas's Broadway show, me reacting to Escape the Night Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3, and me reacting to Beast Games Season 1, along with a bunch of other stuff as well. Again, that is code YouTubeMucker for 30% off it all. And anyways, on with the video. Hi, Muckers! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing very, very, very well. Okay, I'm really excited for today's video because unlike the other videos that we make in which I either don't like the person or I'm kind of impartial or don't have an opinion on, I actually really like the person that we're going to be speaking about today, and that is none other than Emma Chamberlain. Now, Emma Chamberlain for me is a YouTuber that past my YouTube fan days is a YouTuber that I allowed myself to really like. I think after I, was a fan of people we will not name, Colleen Ballinger, I kind of pulled myself back from ever allowing myself to, in a way, get really kind of absorbed in a creator's, community, and I've just always had a different opinion of it ever since things like that. But with Emma Chamberlain, I really kind of allowed myself to, really appreciate her content. And I would say that out of any creator in recent times, Emma Chamberlain is probably one of the creators that I have the closest thing to a parasocial relationship with. I'm very aware of parasocial relationships these days. But I think with Emma Chamberlain, it was kind of hard not to have one because there's such a level of authenticity to her, the relatability aspect. I discovered her in her first real, booming year of YouTube, which was years and years and years ago. So there's been that longevity of watching her, but also unlike other creators that I have watched in the past, Emma Chamberlain is my age. She is, I think, a year older than me, and that added a level of relating more than me and Emma, a level of relating than any other creator that I ever watched. And I really enjoyed her content. And I would say that I am a fan of Emma Chamberlain's content. However, my idea of being a fan of a YouTuber and a fan of anyone in general these days is completely different than what it has ever been. But anyways, with Emma Chamberlain, I find her so fascinating because I really have kind of been, a bird's eye watching this tremendous rise that she has done on YouTube in such a short period of time. And I think that Emma Chamberlain is one of the only success stories of a YouTuber going from, YouTuber to influencer to this mainstream door being open. And I would argue that the only real people before her when it has came to female creators has been maybe Superwoman, Lily Singh, or Liza Koshy. Now, I look at those two and I think of, Lily Singh's YouTube show or nightlife show that kind of ruined her career trajectory. And I also think of Liza Koshy, and I don't really think of her as mainstream as what she once was. But I think it's important to give those women their flowers that I think without Liza Koshy and without Lily Singh opening the doors for female creators, going from YouTube to mainstream, I don't think Emma Chamberlain would be where she is today, and the likes of Brittany Broski, etc. And so with Emma Chamberlain, I think there's something really interesting. Now, I've actually met Emma twice. I met her once in Paris. There was a Louis Vuitton event going on, and it was right beside my hotel, and I was a huge fan of Emma Chamberlain. I think I was this is 2021. I think I was 18 back then. I think I was 18. Yeah. I was a huge Emma fan. I was staying in Paris, and coincidentally, she was promoting that she was going to be hosting this Louis Vuitton event. And so anyways, I literally just popped over there and I got to meet her, which was really exciting. And she was so fucking lovely. And I think back on that day, and I hold a lot of love for how kind she was to me that day. And there were other fans there as well. And she, again, we're similar age, so I look at her a little bit differently than I look at other creators. But I remember just being so excited and calling my mom after and just being, oh my God, she was so lovely. And it had, came up, hopped the heels off of, creators not treating me so great. So I was obviously, I don't know her or anything like that, but it was just so nice to, a creator live up to your expectations and, that level of it. She was lovely back then. And then I actually met her again in 2021, and it's actually been 4 years. A couple days ago, it popped up on my Facebook memories since I had met her. And actually, the story was, really ironic, was that me, Kat, Tembarge, and Spill Sash, what a fucking duo, or trio, sorry, a nightmare blunt rotation, Jesus Christ, we were all going to meet up and go to dinner. And then we were going to go to Role Model's concert. Now, Emma Chamberlain and Role Model, you know, Role Model is in Sally. I love Role Model. I loved him from back then. Real ones love Role Model whenever he was dating Emma Chamberlain, and we like discovered him as like a little indie artist. Look at me, I'm sounding so fucking annoying. But anyways, he was doing a concert in LA, and Spill Sash was basically saying to me and Kat, did we want to go? And we said yes. So we all had organized to go, and long story short, they met up before me for drinks, and then I was going to meet up with them to go to the concert. We were going to go to Saddle Ranch for dinner and then go to the concert. Now, I was busy doing other things, and they told me to go to Saddle Ranch. Little did I know that there was 2 different Saddle Ranches, and I ordered an Uber to the Saddle Ranch that I thought it was. Me not understanding LA, have never traveled on my own before. I go from West Hollywood to a Saddle Ranch in Anaheim, which, looking back now, that is literally like an hour drive, and I should have known because it was like an hour drive, but I was like, whatever. So I literally go to Anaheim Saddle Ranch. I walk in. I'm looking for Kat. I'm looking for Spill Sash. I can't fucking see them. I call them and I'm like, I'm here. And they're like, we're at the back table. And I'm walking to the fucking back table of the Saddle Ranch. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. She looks at my location. I am in Anaheim. I am an hour away from them. So anyways, they have their fucking lovely dinner at Saddle Ranch. I'm fuming. I'm so angry, even though it was my fault, but they just didn't send me the right location. So I'm fucking raging, and I end up getting an Uber. I Uber there an hour, and I Uber straight to the venue, and I'm like, I'm gonna miss the fucking concert. I'm gonna whatever. So they're like waiting for me to be like 10 minutes away to leave for the venue. We all leave for the venue at the same time. I end up arriving before them. The concert is nearly over by this stage. I'm like, fuck it. I go to line up to get into the concert. They're like, by the way, do you know the concert is about to be over? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Now, while I'm doing that, I see that there's someone in front of me, and I literally am like, oh my fucking God, it's Emma Chamberlain. Because Emma was dating Role Model at this time, they were a little bit trying to, not be public about their relationship. So Emma showed up right before the ending of the concert to obviously get in where no fans were there. Unfortunately for Emma, I was still a huge fan of her, and I had just arrived. It literally looked like I was fucking stalking her. Instead, I was having the worst night of my life. And she was, I said, hi, Emma, and she had actually remembered that she had met me in Paris, whether she was lying or not. I understand the game. And she talked to me for a little bit. She took a photo with me, and I loved it because, again, she was probably really annoyed that she was spot by a fan by that stage. But anyways, I have a lot of love for Emma. But with Emma Chamberlain, I think of her as a really interesting example of, Emma, a couple years ago on YouTube, would post a vlog, and it would get 9 million views. And Emma will post a vlog now on YouTube, and it will, average at most about 1 million, 1.5 million views, which is incredible. But like, she posted her recent vlog, I think, is under 1 million. It's at like 800K. So I was like, why is Emma Chamberlain only gained in subscribers and gained in followers, but people are less interested in watching her now? And like, her YouTube audience has kind of left her. Like, again, she was getting 8 million views a vlog, but now she's not even getting 1 million. She's seemingly killing it in the mainstream. She's doing the Met Gala. She's, friends with all these celebrities. She's partying with Sabrina Carpenter. She's still posting content, but why is the audience not what it once was? Because you would think that they would grow. And then I kind of wrote this down, which was Emma Chamberlain's entire appeal was being real and being authentic and being relatable. So what happens when Emma's life becomes unattainable to people? Does the audience leave? I find it really interesting. So I'm going to kind of dive in, and we're going to talk about it, because I think as well that there's something here that's incredibly unrealistic and probably annoying for the influencers, which is like, the audience builds you up because they find you relatable. And then obviously your life changes because they build you up to, your life is now, very unrealistic to them. Should you lie about your life so that you look relatable to them, or should you be honest, but then they don't like that? I can understand how frustrating it is. Or I actually don't. I could imagine how frustrating it was for these creators, because, it's like when a creator would move to LA and the audiences are like, oh, they're so LA now, they've changed. And it's like, damn, I'm just getting more opportunities now. That kind of rhetoric. So again, Emma Chamberlain was like the golden child, the same way David Dobrik was, without really the scandals of like being the YouTube it child. She was the one that would be featured in, magazines. She would be the one that YouTube would like promote, as being like the standard YouTuber. The thing that made Emma blow up, because she blew up really quickly, was the fact that she was just a regular girl. She, would have like a messy look. She wouldn't care how she looked on camera. She would be talking shit about college. She would be vlogging in school. She'd be vlogging on like her drive into school. She's like ranting about school. Problems that like people her age were going through. That was who her demographic was. So I'm watching this and I'm relating to it. This person's watching it and they're relating to it. And it was just kind of like, oh my God, we see ourselves in her. And she had this cool attitude. She was funny and just, there was so many things about Emma that just like immediately drew people to finding her incredibly relatable. And again, I think it's important to stress that from the start of her career, this was what made her stand out, which was this level of, relatability. And I think that was ultimately something that gets used against her in the end, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Also, one thing about Emma was other YouTubers her age at that time were really trying to put on like a front, whereas she was kind of seen for a long time as like the anti-influencer and the anti-YouTuber. She was more negative, she was more real about things, and I think that really, really, really worked. She was also a chronic oversharer, and I think as well, the more successful and popular she got, and the more she started meeting celebrities, and the more she started going to exclusive events, and the more she started dating people, the more she pulled back on that, obviously. But then the audience, were like, this is not the Emma we signed up for. But then again, that is just a sign of like maturing and growing up. And you would as well if you have a bigger audience watching. And people forget to realize that Emma was so real at the start because it was such a smaller audience. So I would say that this kind of idea of oversharing and kind of self-deprecation was the real reason that she really propelled at the start. And I think as well that it's important to note that not only were her vlogs killing it and she was relatable and the algorithm loved her. That is the one reason that Emma Chamberlain blew up, and I hate to say it, but the algorithm loved her and she knew what she was doing and she continued doing it. Then she started collabing. She became friends with other YouTubers, the Sister Squad with James Charles and the Dolan twins. That was one of the smartest marketing friendship things. They all profited off of each other's audiences. It was a recipe for them all going viral. And Emma Chamberlain dating one of the Dolan twins at the peak of like her, booming in success, and then their audience, hi Woody. Obviously, this was just going to propel her even further. So she played her cards really well at the start. But here's the thing. That was Emma Chamberlain for the first couple of years of her career. And this was, I would say, like the peak of her YouTube, when she was getting the most amount of views. But, somewhere between doing all this, Emma Chamberlain is now hosting the Met Gala, and she's in magazine covers, and she's walking red carpets, and she, again, is friends with major celebrities, and she's going to exclusive events, and she's, not showing us this, and she's dating people and not talking about it, and she's whatever. This is a natural progression of your audience getting bigger, and that level of vulnerability is not, people don't just deserve that. However, I'm not faulting Emma for that, but what I'm saying is it definitely affected her YouTube and online brand so much and audience participation when she blew up because, and I don't blame her, Emma had to change her entire brand when she blew up. She could no longer be talking all the shit about the people in her life because that would have business ramifications for her. She couldn't be talking about what she was doing on a night out anymore because she's with celebrities and they have no phone, rules at clubs and stuff like that. And also, the more that Emma would grow, the more that her life became unattainable. She was going from vlogging in her mother's apartment to, vlogging in multi-million-dollar mansions. Does she address it and get backlash, or does she not address it and get backlash? Creators who build their life on being authentic and then blow up and then have a very different lifestyle because they, have been blown up, are faced with you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you address it, the audience will turn on you. If you don't address it, the audience will turn on you. So you kind of have to have this happy medium. And I think that Emma is one of the only people who's successfully gotten her way out of it. But in doing that, she has lost her YouTube audience, as seen with views. But that doesn't mean that she's not as popular as what she once was. I would say that Emma Chamberlain in the mainstream is the most popular she's ever been. But in terms of her fan base and, social media, it's probably the worst it's ever been. You win some, you lose some. Emma just kind of played it right where she dipped her toe in telling you about things, but then would hold back on a lot more rather than cutting the audience off completely or oversharing. I can't imagine how, back and forth tennis it must feel though. Like, do I tell the audience the truth? Do I not tell them? Are they going to say I'm not relatable, which I'm not anymore? Or are they going to say that I'm showing off? Am I going to look ungrateful? Do I tell them that I'm making all this money? Do I show them the house? I'm no longer going to this coffee shop because I have my own coffee company. Like, so many things changed for Emma. You know, when we go to 2017 to 2019, this is whenever she was, blowing up on YouTube. She was 16, 17, 18 years old, literally a child. She was a fucking child. And she was just, filming herself doing things that people that age do. And that was what people were watching for. So number one, when you grow into an adult, your methods of going through life, what you want to share changes, your opinion on things changes. So even if Emma hadn't got super rich and super famous, her content would have changed inevitably anyways. She was just kind of propelled into it a little bit earlier by you guys and me making her famous. You know what I mean? And so I think that as well, at the start, the first couple of years of Emma, she was known as like not being the perfect YouTuber. As I said, she was known as being the anti-influencer. She was known as being someone that, wasn't overly edited, that almost to a fault. So then her entire brand becomes, being a polished celebrity. She's on the red carpet. Her makeup is phenomenal. She is at this unattainable level now. That was never what her career started as, but you can't fault her for taking opportunities as they come. But I understand why the audience no longer are interested, because she's now just a celebrity rather than the YouTuber. But that's not her fault. If anything, it's the audience's fault. So it's this double-edged sword. You know what I mean? I think that Emma not caring about being an influencer or not caring about being a celebrity or a YouTuber was what made her really popular. She would make fun of the concept of being a celebrity, the concept of being an influencer, the concept of being a YouTuber. So when she became that, of course it was inevitable that she was going to lose her main audience. But again, that doesn't mean that she isn't as successful as what she once was. It just means her success looks very different now. And the people that are a part of that journey appreciate her on a level that isn't just, you're going to give us what we want, She, again, was anti-beauty guru, anti-Instagram model, the anti-brand. Now she has her own brand, Chamberlain Coffee, which I actually like, by the way. And I think from YouTuber standpoints is probably one of the only brands that really makes sense to me. She used to be the anti-Instagram model. She literally walks the red carpet now and does model photo shoots. And the anti-beauty guru, she openly is promoting brands and openly promoting makeup and stuff. She became everything that she was originally against, but that is just because opportunities came about. And again, you cannot hold a 16-year-old YouTuber to the standards of a 24-year-old woman. You know what I mean? So anyways, again, I just think that I've written this down. When your entire appeal is being real and authentic, what happens when your life is now unreal? Do you show the audience? Do you not? Do you stop posting? We see that with people. Or do we continue posting and show our real life? Or do we do a happy medium? I can't imagine the pressure that is on these creators because, again, they're not necessarily asking for the pressure. They're not asking to, blow up in the algorithm. They're not whatever. And then should they be held responsible for showing a realistic version of their life? I don't think so at all. Emma moved to LA. She got backlash for it. She bought a house. She got backlash for it. She started her Chamberlain Coffee. She got backlash for it. She became a Louis Vuitton ambassador. She got backlash for it. She launched a podcast with Spotify. She got backlash for it. She was now sitting at Paris Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. She was getting backlash for it. She was going to Sabrina Carpenter's party. You get the point. She was getting backlash for it. All of these opportunities were because of the audience giving them to her. And she is not in the wrong for taking them. However, I understand why the audience stopped necessarily caring about her, because now they were just actively supporting another celebrity rather than a YouTuber that they really cared about. And again, that is just the natural progression of an influencer. That is literally just how it works. And a lot of people talk about this concept of an influencer selling out. I don't think that Emma Chamberlain sold out. I think that Emma Chamberlain evolved, took opportunities that the audience gave her. And I just think that this idea of selling out is crazy to me, because it's we try to put influencers in a box, but then they ultimately get opportunities because of the support. And then if they weren't to take them, you would take them if you were in the position, right? So yes, I don't think that she's a sellout. I think she takes every opportunity she gets, and I don't see a problem with that. Do I miss the Emma Chamberlain that I used to watch? Yes. Was that the real Emma Chamberlain? Not now, because that was a 16, 17-year-old. Emma Chamberlain's now a grown adult. You cannot, like, put people in a box of the version that you remember them of or that you want them to be. And we see this with creators where people will like have an idea or a version of them and they need them to stay like that. That is also really weird. And parasocial, mind you. You know, that's parasocial. It really is. So anyways, we move on. And I just want to say that like, Emma's really interesting to me because she is a creator who has really outgrown being a YouTuber, but she hasn't stopped being a YouTuber. She still posts every once in a while, and she doesn't get the views she did, but I think that shows a level of she really enjoyed being a YouTuber this entire time, and I think that is ultimately what makes me go back and watch her videos and appreciate her rather than any other YouTuber that, you know, went mainstream. I think that her doing her podcast was one of the smartest things she could have done. It's called Anything Goes, and she created this really at the height of her fame. And I think she still does it to this day. It is something that keeps her and her audience connected, and she will openly, you know, talk about things that are going on in her life. She isn't super specific about it, but she hints at things, and I think that that's enough for the audience, you know, like giving them a crumb. I don't think that I don't think the audience are... You know, I don't think that she should just tell the audience everything just because this is her life now. That's not how the world works. That really isn't how the world works at all. And the fact that she posts anything and has a weekly podcast and posts YouTube videos like once every couple months, I think is more than what we've seen other YouTubers who go mainstream and leave the platform and say to the audience, you know. I think that Emma really does appreciate what she built on YouTube, but just obviously, as anyone else was, appreciates all these other things as well. You know, did Emma Chamberlain become what she once made fun of? Yes. But when you're young, you make fun of a lot of things that you kind of wish would happen to you. You know what I mean? Jealousy or just wanting, or things seem unattainable, so you hate on them. You know, that is also something to note here as well. Now, I think that Emma Chamberlain, you know, took a long period off from YouTube, and I thought she was going to quit for real. I really did, and I was like, she's going mainstream, whatever. And I was still supporting her. I don't support her on the same level because obviously I don't watch her weekly anymore. But in 2024, Emma came back to YouTube, and there was no real big announcement. There was no, like, PR push behind it. There was no huge branding behind it. It was these, like, long videos about her feelings, about her life, and it like negated the fact that she was so unattainable now and focus centered on her again. And the art style of them, the direction in them really showed a level of her just being someone who enjoys content creating. And I think that brought people back to why they liked Emma rather than flashy materialistic things. I just think that Emma is... Like, you can't think of Emma as someone who was a YouTuber who went mainstream. The crowd don't care about them anymore and their career's over. Emma's career is at its peak right now, but her YouTube isn't. I don't think that Emma's is like a failure by any means. I think that Emma's is like probably the most successful evolution of a YouTuber to a mainstream celebrity that we've ever seen. I think that there is going to be a genre on YouTube of relatable YouTubers who are essentially killed by relatability because the audience blow them up to immense fame. You can't hate the creator for that, and you also can't hate the audience. What are the audience going to do? Not watch a creator ever? What's the creator going to do? Not take opportunities? It's what we're going to see because we, again, are living in a world where anyone can blow up. Anyone can hit the algorithm. And I just think that like being prepared that someone taking opportunities or someone moving or someone whatever isn't them forgetting who they are. Sometimes that is just a natural part of people's evolution. And if we're to look at YouTube as a job, right? Not everyone stays in the same job their entire life. And Emma decided to come back. And I do think that shows because she has a passion for content creating. I think that Emma's an example of when people miss a version of you that isn't you anymore. That's not Emma's fault, and maybe it's not the people's fault as well that they have a parasocial. But also with Emma, it's people liking a child version of her, you know, a 16-year-old version who looks at the world very differently than a 24-year-old woman. And I just think that we are in the end of the relatable YouTube era. And the audience has to be okay with that. The audience has to be okay with that. There's nothing bad about your favorite influencer, evolving if they're respectful. It's just being aware that it's going to happen and that it's normal. I don't know. I have so many thoughts on this that I would love to know yours. Please let me know down below. I just think that Emma really killed it in her progression. And again, it's kind of a damn if you do, damn if you don't. But I don't know. I think she's one of the good ones. And again, that's kind of speaking parasocially. But I mean, I don't really watch her stuff anymore. So like, I really don't care. But I'm just being honest of everyone I've witnessed, go through this. I think more successful than Liza Koshy and Lily Singh for real. Goodness me. Let me know your opinion. We'll talk about it down below. I appreciate you being here, and goodbye.